Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Elephant Talk. Today I had the absolute pleasure of talking to the queen herself, the goddess of the arena, Teagan Earley. You know how much I love talking about The Voice, and I was equally happy to be talking about The Voice with someone who loves it just as much as me. We nerded out about The Voice, we talked about Teagan's own music and how she got the role of Athena in Epic. It was truly a wonderful time. So please enjoy the episode. Hi Teagan, how are you?
I am doing great, Jen. I am. Do you prefer Jen or Jennifer?
I mean, I used to go by Jenny a lot in my younger years, like at school. And there was only one friend who's like my strongest friend to this day that
Yeah.
called me Jen. So I think that's why Jen's stuck.
Oh, okay, great.
Jen's good.
I thought you were about to be like, oh, I saved that for like my.
Yeah, no. I start my videos with like, you can call me Jen. It's fine. We're here.
Oh, perfect. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm great because I am finally getting to talk to you. I'm seriously like, I feel like I've been following your music and your incredible content, and of course, then your journey with Stories from Styx, like forever. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we finally get to just sit down and chat and
Yeah.
talk as humans. Like, this is
Yeah.
so exciting. I've been looking forward to this for weeks.
I know, same. I mean, paths are finally crossing because I knew, like I
Yes.
said, like I feel like I've heard your voice. I know of you for the past year or so that I've been reacting to Epic and, looking at all of that, then your own music, and then of course Stories from Styx. So finally, the time has come
I know.
where we get
Oh,
to.
we finally just got on Zoom together and
I
made it
know. Let's just
happen.
hop on Zoom and chat about music and life in general and just have a good time.
All I could have done anyway. So.
Yeah. Yeah. How have you been anyway? What have you been up to recently with like music or just general life?
Oh my gosh, I general life has been a lot of like spending time with family recently, which has been really, really lovely. But then in the midst of that, I've been getting ready for like a couple live shows this summer with
Ooh,
the music,
fun.
which has been really exciting. Very busy, very chaotic. Uh, and but like I wouldn't rather be doing anything else. So a lot of yeah, that's been me. How about you?
Yeah. I mean, same. I feel like I do a lot of performing with the band that I'm in.
Oh, oh my
So we're,
gosh. Here.
we're a function band, so we do lots of weddings and parties and stuff like that. So it's like covers predominantly. Obviously, I've got my original music as well, but
Uh-huh.
you gotta do it all.
Oh,
So yeah, wedding season's coming up, so that's obviously busy in terms of performing for myself. But
oh my God. I can
yeah.
it's awesome though that you get to do that. And like I love the idea of like sharing in someone's best day. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Their
It
best day.
was like I remember the first few times that I did it, it was like a lot of pressure. I was like, oh my God, I'm doing their first dance, I'm singing them down the aisle. I was like, this is a moment that people are going to remember for the rest of their lives. Like, please.
Gotta make sure
But
I'm steamed up, warmed
I
up.
know exactly all of the stuff that needs to happen. But yeah, so you've got some of your own original music performances coming up.
Yes, I do. Yes, I go by the for those of you watching who might not know, I go by Teagan Earley in kind of my actor life. So that's, the epic and the stories from Styx of it all. But then my stage name for my solo music is Temo, Te/Mo. And yeah, I just released a double EP back in February called the Lovers EP, which is part of a bigger project that I'm exploring. That's all tarot themed because I'm very witchy and I love tarot. Um, and then I'm going to be live debuting a lot of that music this summer, both
Nice.
at some of my own solo shows, and then I'm also uh, going to be on tour with someone very, very exciting. So I'm going to do a couple more dates with that person. I can't announce who it is yet, but you're going to love it, especially like people who are probably watching this podcast are going to love it.
Yeah. Stay tuned. Follow Tegan on social media and Timo and everything, so you stay
We
stay
go
tuned with
have
what's coming
parties.
up.
We go have a
Yeah.
big party. It'll be fun.
Oh, how is it performing it live? Because like, have you like performing covers than performing original music? What's the difference for you? Like how does that make you feel?
I would say performing covers, I always get more nervous about because like I'm someone who memorization doesn't stick in my brain very well, the way that
Yeah.
my brain is wired. Like I somehow have made it work for a career mostly, but there's something about especially other people's music
Mm.
that doesn't always, stick as certainly as it probably should. Whereas like the
Mm.
nice thing about a lot of the songs that I wrote is that I wrote them, so the words are pretty in there.
Yeah.
Um, it's not always some people who have gone to like my sound checks and things like that will know that sometimes I mess up those lyrics and those songs too. But for the most part, it feels a lot more comfortable because the words came from me in the first place, so
Yeah.
they're a lot easier to kind of recall, especially in high stress moments. Um, yeah, and then otherwise, I think performing live is really fun. Sometimes I make my life really, really hard because, as you probably know, because of your solo music, sometimes you record something really cool in the studio and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And then you get ready, you're in rehearsals to perform it live, and you're like, oh, oh, that was a only in the studio thing. We're gonna have to figure
Yeah.
out an up down or like some kind of variation for this.
Yeah.
If we are going to attempt it, then it's gonna have to be like a full vocal rest week before we
Yeah,
can
yeah,
get
yeah.
this.
And I guess as well, you kind of, because it's a performance and you sing more than just one song in the studio, you just focus on that one song or whatever you're doing, but you're focusing on that area of your voice. When it comes to a performance, you are singing completely different. You've got a wonderful range, first of all, like you're singing lows, singing highs. I've heard from people that have watched you in person live saying how incredible your range is as well to be captured live. So not only are you singing then the version of the studio that you want it to be, the way that you want it to be sung, you've also got to think about, okay, I've just hit this really low note here. Now I'm singing up here. That's got to be something to think about.
Well, and that's the abs and I love talking to someone who is as much of a savant of vocal technique as you are. Because yeah, that's a huge, I have to factor that into every set list I build. It
Mm,
always takes me so long to build a set list because I am so passionate about the storytelling of the way that the music flows into each other, of
of
course,
course,
especially
yeah.
if this character I've created, Temo, has a whole plot line that she kind of moves through as she moves through the music. But then with live performances, I also have to consider, okay, I need to put most of that lower register stuff because it's so chest dominant and it's so heavy in one part of the thing. But then often the lower register stuff is also the ballads, so you don't want to stack too many of those on top of each other. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh my gosh, and then all of the high skrelty stuff has to either be right at the beginning or right at the end. And, like it's just it is so it's so much to juggle mentally in terms of like building that stuff for someone who is not inclined towards that type of
Yeah.
organization in the first place. My brain is not built for that, but
Yeah, there are so many, like you just said, so many different things. Like the story level, you want to make sure that it follows the right story that you want to
yeah.
bring the people along like you in the journey. But then you've got to think about your voice and what makes sense. Then you don't want too many ballads. So everything that you've said makes complete sense in terms of also like covers in like sets. If I'm singing anything Miley Cyrus, that's at the beginning because she's
Uh-huh.
low.
Yep.
I'm like, bring me flowers right at the beginning of the set, then I can do something else after because I need to get that done.
Hey,
So
that's a
my
great
vocal folds are
opener
thick.
though. It's a great opener. Start
It's a
there.
great opener. Exactly, yeah. Vocals, guitar, off you go.
Exactly. Exactly.
When did your music journey begin? Like, if we think about right, very way back when, mini Teagan, what did your introduction to music? What was that?
She was very mini. She was in about, I mean, so my parents would claim that I have been singing since like before I could talk. That's what they always tell people.
Yeah.
I don't know that I believe that. But apparently when I was a baby, I had a rendition of Wheels on the Bus that I started. I had like one of those toys that would sing
Oh
you a,
yeah, 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 yeah.
and I would hit the button and then I would start cooing, but like note wise, like I would start following the melody of this. So apparently they're like, you could sing before you could talk, but I think that's I don't remember it, so therefore it didn't happen.
So it didn't happen.
But like my true to honesty, like beginning with music was I grew up Catholic, and so I went to a Catholic school where you had to go to church every single week. And when I was in second grade, my second grade class was one of the people because the classes would have to like help out with the mass.
Hmm.
Um, and I was one of the people that was in the choir for the mass, and there were maybe 16 of us or something like that. And then the rest of the kids got to help out with other things. Um, and we were doing, of all things, the rendition of Hail Holy Queen from Sister Act, the movie,
Yes.
which was a blast. And I remember thinking when we were rehearsing it that there was one part that no one was singing. And I was like, oh my God. And I had never seen this movie. I'd never heard the song, but all I knew was that like I could see a piece on the page that no one was singing yet. And so I was like, very quietly under my breath, I was like, okay, like I want to make sure that all of the pieces are accounted for this thing. And my teacher came over to me at one point and she was like, Teagan, were you singing the descant on the top? And I was like, I thought I was in trouble, so I was like,
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Sorry. And she's like, no, 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 it was really good. Do you want to do that in the mass? Like, and so I was a little kid who just wanted to be good at something, you know? So I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
great, yeah, sounds good. And I did it in the mass, and then I remember after that, all of a sudden, like people were coming up to my parents being like, she needs voice lessons. You need to like get her to do this, like you need to
Mm.
like get her into that. And people were coming up to me and saying the same thing. And so and again, when you're young, you don't know whether you love. I knew I liked music. I knew I
Yeah.
really, really enjoyed it, but I just wanted to be good at something, like as so many people that age do.
Yeah.
Um, so I started in voice lessons, I think the next year, and I hold to that, like that was too early, for what they were having me do at least. I do think that there's a way to engage with young people in voice
Yeah.
lessons that has more to do with like, building musicality and different things
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And, oh, let's structure your muscles that are not even developed yet, which is what
Hmm.
they were trying to do with me. But so yeah, so then from then on, it was just always kind of part of my existence. And I then fell in love with opera from there because like my teachers would bring in these art songs and classical music and then have me
Hmm.
learn that. Um, and I fell in love with the languages and with the expressions of just these great pieces of drama and like tragedy and triumph and everything. And I was just a very, very dramatic little kid. And so
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I want to. Then all of a sudden I'm reading like the book Les Mis and the book Phantom, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever, you know? And so then I start seeing more theater, and the more theater I see, the more I realize, like, oh, people do that for a job. Like, this isn't just a fun thing you do after school. Like, people can make a career out of this. And so
Yeah.
then that's when I started pursuing it. Yeah, and here we are.
And here we are. And aren't we happy you're here? No, that's wonderful. I hear a lot of similarities as well. I was born into a Catholic family as well, so I felt that that's something that I was surrounded by. And
Yep.
then being so I'm half Dutch, half Italian as well.
Oh,
My
fierce.
grandfather on my Dutch, I know, throw that in there. My grandfather on my Dutch side was a professional opera singer, so I had a lot of him
Mhm.
singing a lot and just, and I wanted to sing as well. And it was nice because he was singing Italian, because obviously a lot of operas are written in Italian, so there was a like crossover there, and I felt like really connected. But that's
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, also just hearing you talk, you have a really low voice, so it's interesting how, like, do you do that sometimes when you like focus, you really focus on someone
Yeah.
talking, you're like, whoa, you've got some thick folds going on here, like it's like and I'm
Yes.
like, it's interesting because you talk about opera, you talk about lyrical stuff and classical singing and stuff, and obviously we've heard you sing so wonderfully high and belt, and obviously you've got like your range that we spoke about, but it's just interesting to see how you naturally want to lie, like that's how you naturally talk. And it's yeah, so from like classical opera training, how did that cross over to a more contemporary sound? How did that go for you? How did that
Ha ha
happen?
ha ha. As I'm sure it did for you, because I mean, I don't know, maybe being in Europe, it was
Yeah.
different. For me, it was very, it was a battleground. Like it was
Mm,
really, I was studying classical music, and every single time I wanted to bring something contemporary in, or I said, "Oh, can we try that?" or whatever, they're like, and rightfully so, because they're two completely different styles of
mm,
singing. It requires different things of the voice. It requires different means of kind of training yourself up.
yeah.
It's very hard, if not impossible, to do both at the same time at your highest level,
Yeah.
because there's just certain ways that you have to structure your voice and the way that you're supporting and things like that that are just going back and forth is not, you're never going to be able to do that on the professional level
Yeah.
healthily.
Yeah.
So I understand where they're coming from, especially now that I'm older and I understand as a teacher how all that works. But um, yeah, it was very like my first teacher back in high school was actually like my first real teacher, was she was very, very understanding of it. And she was very excited that that was stuff that I wanted to explore. And she helped me navigate it very healthily at an age that could have gone very, very poorly. But admittedly, I'm an Aries, so like I'm a hothead and I am very, kind of charge in, think later. So I would, outside of lessons, like push myself to the limits
Yeah.
more. Like I was in a production of Rent as Maureen while I was studying like
Yeah.
German art songs with my teacher, and so then I would go and do that and I'd be like, ooh, but let me try and opt up or let me try and do this or let me try and do that. I didn't know what I was doing. I was going based off of sound and feel, and that luckily I did not hurt myself during that period, but it was definitely something that like it was a lot of experimentation on my own and then bringing it back to my teacher and then
Yeah.
she being okay, if you're gonna do it then let's do it like this, like here, let me try and help you find this. I did a lot of sitting on a medicine ball and like squatting against walls and things like that where she was like, just be careful please. um and then so then when by the time I was off to college, my I went to the University of Notre Dame in Indiana, and they did not actually have a musical theater program when I started there. They have kind of developed it while I was a student there, which was really cool to be part of. Um, but I started, the only way that I was going to get voice lessons was if I was studying opera, if I was in the
Okay.
music.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I was also in the theater school. I kind of dual majored for a minute, and that was where like the push and pull and the rub of like, oh, you can't do both of these, at least at the professional level, really
Yeah.
started because, as you probably know, as someone who's also classically trained, you have to basically, at least in the American schooling system, in order to do a classical voice major, you have to overload every single semester. And that's like if you're doing it by itself, let alone all of the poor kids that were doing that and like pre-med, or
Yeah.
me doing that in theater. And so yeah, it was, and I had a great teacher while I was at Notre Dame. I've said several great teachers while I was at Notre Dame, but one who like I was with for several years. And he was very intent on keeping things a little more separate, but I fought him so much on it that eventually he was like, okay, fine, if we're gonna do it, then like bring in, let's try this or let's try this. Um, so I was really lucky to have really great teachers to kind of help
Yeah.
me navigate all of that and navigate my own stubbornness when it came to what was healthy and what wasn't. Like I got a lot of really healthy pushback. Um, Fun fact though, they started training me as a lyric soprano, which was very weird for me. Like right at the beginning of my time at Notre Dame. And then they were like, no, 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 no. Oh my gosh, that rich lower range, you must be a mezzo. We'll train you as a mezzo. And then I think it was my junior year finally. They had a workshop with this man named David Jones, who's like a specialist in vocal types and like
Mhm.
how to place people and things like that. And my teacher at the time was like, I really want you to get a session in with him because I don't always know what to do with your voice and especially your lower range. So like I think he will be able to advise us on like what we should be giving you repertoire wise, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. And I literally sang for David Jones for maybe like 5 to 7 seconds. And he's like, why are they training you as a mezzo? You're a contralto. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Like, great. Awesome. So yeah, my voice has always naturally sat lower, even when I was
Yeah.
a lot younger, speaking wise. And
Yeah.
so it took a vocal specialist to finally like get me to the pants rolls though.
Yeah.
Um, and then the end of that story is I decided that, in terms of the type of storytelling I wanted to be doing, I gravitated much more towards theater than I did towards opera, just because opera is very much about like the incredible nature of the voice and displaying
Mhm.
that on its highest level. Whereas like I would want to, if I'm playing Carmen and I'm dying. I want to be able to like cry and scream,
Yeah.
like I want to languish in that. And they're like, no, because that gets in the way of the voice. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, in theater they let me do that. So I should probably go. I should probably.
This is what I want to do. I want to show that story rather than the pretty singing, or like,
Yeah.
yeah, the balance of the two. It is important. You mentioned, I think it's good that you did the cross training though, because it strengthened, sometimes we can be so focused on one kind of
Yeah.
thing that we want to do, whether it be a style like opera or a musical theatre, high belt, low, whatever voice, whatever side it is. Sometimes okay, I just want to focus on belt, I'm going to keep doing this. But it's important to focus on those softer qualities first so we can stretch up our voice up there, work on those thin fold, like strengthening motions up there. And I think so it's done a lot of good clearly for
Oh,
you, but that cross training I
no.
think is important.
Absolutely. No, I hold to, and I tell people this every single time they ask me, like, if I had not been classically trained, I would not still be here in terms of like in
Of
being a
course.
singer. Like
Yeah.
it creates a stamina and a strength in you that is, if you can do classical music, you can literally do any genre.
Yeah.
It is the incredible strong foundation through which you can do anything. And what I find now is, now that I'm not in school studying that, and I'm so
Mm.
therefore, like, as you probably know, you probably have like vocal teachers or vocal coaches or whatever. It gets expensive to see them as regularly. I didn't realize like how much good I had being able to see them every single
Yeah,
week
yeah,
when I was still in school.
yeah. Mm.
Um, and nowadays, like I found I have to fight so much harder and do so much work myself to keep that training and to keep that strength up, because
Yep.
especially because my voice sits lower naturally, like my chords are so like it is so hard to like be able to go in and strengthen the thin chord exercises and things like that. So
Yeah.
I'm like look back on that time so fondly now, and I'm like, you didn't even realize how much good you had, like
I
keeping your voice
know.
so strong. And but yeah, anytime anyone is like, oh, I want to learn to sing or I want to learn to start, I'm like, okay, we'll start in the classical
Yeah.
and then like work out from
Or
there. But that'll help you build your foundation. So
yeah. Or just start somewhere, like sometimes, like I said, like, someone will come up to me, I want to sound like this person, I want to belt like this, and I just try and do the complete opposite. And it's at first they might be
yeah,
like, "Why am I doing this? This is not what I wanted to do." And I'm like, "It'll get there, don't worry." Like, don't run before we can walk, type of thing. Like, just can't like slow down bit by bit. It's not going to be quick fixes. We're working on strengthening. That's the most important thing, and that's what I want people to feel. We want to be able to keep singing for a long time, not just the what and then stop. It is interesting how the voice shifts. Recently in my live performances, I've had people coming up to me saying that I have a really low set voice when I sing. I never like training, I was top soprano. I don't know how.
yeah,
It's like it's changed,
girl.
so I can feel like the change obviously, but like it's just so mad to me hearing people come up to me say, oh yeah, like it's nice hearing not someone just like singing up high all the time. It's someone like singing really like these low songs, these outer kind of voice, and I'm like, okay, cool, that's where I am now. Apparently, this is where I sit. I'll take it. Yeah, it's
Okay.
nice. It's nice.
Oh, well, I feel like I think I heard once that female born voices, they're changing until they're like, oh gosh, what is it, like 26 or
Oh
27
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah,
something? And then they kind of set in place after that, but like anything that you experience before that is already kind of constantly changing and developing. Whereas men, I
yeah.
think, have until they're 30 or something like that,
Really.
like, as they do
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that it's really interesting to see how voices change over time. And I
Mm.
mean, but I also want to give credit where credit is due, which is that your range and your voice is next level out of
Oh,
this world insane. So, yeah, it makes sense that you get complimented on your incredible lower range because it's incredible. And yet you've got this high soprano that is as stunning as it is mind blowing. I literally am like, you're complimenting my range. I'm like, okay, girl, hold on. Uno reverse. Let's talk
yeah.
about you.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Like, like daughter, like mother, like
I
daughter.
know, I was gonna say you
So
have like really good genes.
it's just there. No, thank you very much. I mean, I have so much joy singing. So obviously I kind of, and like you were
Yeah.
saying as well, from training every day to then not, you have to be on top of it if you want it to keep if you want to keep working, if you want to keep strengthening on it, and it's something that I do enjoy. So I it's nice noticing the changes as the years
Yeah.
go on with my
Yeah.
voice and just seeing how like things are moving, shifting. Oh, cool! Now I can hit this lower note that I couldn't do before. Before I had to like opt up or something. You know, like it's now I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm loving this lower range a lot more, but I still need to remember to stretch up. So it's good to. Do you have certain exercises, warm ups that you do before live performances or before recording sessions, like favorites?
Yes, and what's so funny is I once I log off of here, like I need to go do some of this in my car because I'm going to be going to a recording session later today. Um,
Fun.
but I'm a big straw girly. I love here,
Yes.
I actually have my this one's a little bit big for my purposes. Ugh! But I like to always have one with me. But
Mm.
you do.
Yep.
I love to just do scales, and go through and well, first I usually like stretch. Sorry, this is so chaotic. This is usually how my mouth is, by the way.
This is so good.
But I will sit there and I'll do some just kind of gentle stretches and
Yep.
roll through the scales, like not really worrying so much about the exact notes. I
Mm.
will then, usually go through scales, and then I always love to do at least like one full song or one semi-full song through this as well
Yes.
because it's just such a great low impact way to start, and then you can go through there and you can do your like raise your yas and
Yeah.
things like that. Um, but I always like to start with something that's really, really low impact. And if it's
Yeah.
not, if I don't have a straw on me, then I do a lot of very gentle speaking exercises. I had an amazing, amazing musical theater style voice teacher.
Mm.
Um, who once told me, like, and it's stuck with me ever since, like, if you can't sing it quietly, you shouldn't be singing it at all.
Oh
So
yeah.
sometimes I'll start in kind of a quieter spoken, very natural, hey, 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 and
Mm.
just stretch through things, and strengthen that kind of like awkward transitional mixy area. Um, yeah, and then so that's like in a nutshell, in a
In a
chaotic
nutshell.
nutshell, that's what
Yeah,
some of
I
this.
mean it's the same as what we just said before, like, you can't run before you can walk or whatever the saying is. Like I think doing just not putting any pressure in terms of notes, just kind of like just making weird noises as we go, just seeing how things are feeling. Like that's my go-to. I
Yep.
love lip trills. I'm a lip trill gal. I love the
Oh
straw
yes.
as well, but
Yep.
like that would be where I start.
Well, that's
Um,
another good like low impact, like because you
exactly, like
start to
the
vocalize and get things
SOVT,
warmed up.
semi-occluded vocal tract. We're just warming things up before we kind of like, go for it.
Oh,
Yeah,
speaking
I
my
mean,
language, I love it.
I know, just throwing it there, teacher to teacher.
Yeah, I
Do
was
you
gonna say
do you
no.
do you teach a lot? Do you have many like private one-to-ones? Is that what you tend to?
Yeah, I tend to do private one-to-ones. I tend to I teach mostly virtual because I started my studio during the pandemic. So like
Yeah,
that was just kind of how it began, and I've
yeah.
continued in that way just because now I have so many students from all over, which is really cool. I specialize actually in like young changing voices because
Oh,
that's
nice.
again, especially as someone who was singing the whole time through when my voice was at its kind
Yeah.
of crux point in my youth, and the research that I've done since has been really, really focused on young changing voices. So I tend to work with like people are always like, "Oh my gosh, I really want like to have a session with you or whatever," and I'm like, okay, I don't know that I will have as much to offer you as I would someone who's 11, but like
Yeah.
try. I'm very excited. And I love like helping people specifically work through like repertoire and things like that too,
Yeah.
because that is a little bit easier for me to grasp. I
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
I always say I'm a vocal coach, not like a true to God voice teacher.
Mm.
Because I've done a lot of independent research, but I have never like gotten a degree in it or
Yeah.
anything. Or at least I didn't finish my degree in it. So I just try and, help where I can and stuff like that.
Yeah. But it's still important. I mean, did you, when you started teaching, did you kind of teach anyone and whoever students you can get, then you realized that actually it was the younger, like 11, 12-year-old that you felt like there was a space there that what your knowledge was, what you were inspired to teach. Like, did you then change who your students were, or did you always kind of teach younger,
It was
changing
it was
voices?
a combination of both. It was
Mm.
like there were a few adults that I taught right at the beginning that were just either friends of mine or
Yeah.
friends of friends or whatever who wanted to work with me. But then I had a lot of kids that I worked with already because I also grew up, my other job once upon a time was I've worked in childcare forever. So like
Okay, yeah.
I've worked a nanny, I've worked at daycares, I've directed children's theater, different things
Yeah.
like that. So a lot of my connections, or at least people who were asking me about teaching voice lessons at the time, which is part of the reason I started the studio in the first place, were like parents of young people or were the
Yeah.
young people themselves. And so um, it was kind of like a combination of I realized that that's really where I thrived and like who I communicated best with about
Yeah.
these techniques, and also knowing where my kind of where my limitations were in terms of my own research and in terms of
Hmm.
my own experience. There would hit a wall where I basically would be like, okay, I don't know that I know how to advise you, an older, more developed person over here, as
Yeah.
opposed to like these people are, frankly, like their voice is going to be completely different in 2 years. And
Well,
so
yeah.
like I can kind of help them get to that point, or if they're at that point, I can help them navigate that point
Yeah.
to an extent where they're excited about singing and they're excited about sharing their voices, and especially if they want to go into theater or music or whatever, they're excited about that as well. But it's not something that uh, that necessarily is my word is completely law yet, because that's
Yeah. Yeah.
their,
Yeah.
like I just try and be very, very real about my own strengths and weaknesses in terms of my teaching.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's important though, because everyone gets information, like receives information differently, and they kind of process it differently. So I think it's important to kind of be at where they are. Like, kind of,
Yeah.
that's an important thing. When I started just before the pandemic, and then obviously I then moved online, and then I got more, and then now I stay online because they're all across the world now, which
Yeah.
is wonderful. And I love that. And I found that I like teaching. I prefer teaching older people in the professional industry, or just, I mean, it doesn't have to be just a professional industry, but just someone who enjoys, and I know that they're going to put the work in. They kind of like, obviously that's a good thing when
Yes.
someone
Yeah.
you can always tell when they don't.
Oh,
But
girl.
I've been saying that I do have a few younger students, but again, they want, I know that they're really interested in the voice and singing. I'm a quite technical person when I sing. I feel like you can kind of get that from my
Oh,
my
you
channel.
know. Oh my
No,
God.
vocal folds, what? So that's something that I do love to talk about. So I want them to be excited by it. So if they're not, I will, send them somewhere else. I'm probably not the right teacher for you. And if I get someone who's like, around the 11 and 12s, I'll be like, hey, look, I've got this wonderful teacher, Teagan, go over there.
Yeah, oh my gosh,
Send
please.
them your way.
Okay. Because
They're in good
well, and
hands.
it's funny you say that, because I think part of the reason that I thrive in that condition is because I was a nanny
Yeah.
for so long, and because I worked in the daycare industry and things like that. Because I've had kids bring in like the gummy bear song, because I'm always like, I want you to be excited. Because I remember
Yeah.
like there were times when I was your age when, because I had to go to lessons, I wasn't excited about singing, because people
Mm.
would just hand me a song and tell me to learn it. And it wasn't a song I was interested in. And so it would feel like more homework. And I already was
Yeah.
stressed in school as like a 9-year old or whatever. And so I'm always like, I want you to bring in the stuff that you're excited about singing, that gets you excited about storytelling and about, like sing. So I've gotten everything from like the gummy bear song to a lot of Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah.
Descendants is actually really fun when I get a lot of Descendants, but and like for a while it was all Trolls songs. And so like
Yes.
it's not always the most technically sound exciting material for me as an adult, but like what I do see is that they are so much more apt and likely to practice if they're passionate about the stuff that they're singing,
Yeah.
rather than like if I'm just handing them something and being like, this will be really good for your voice, let's do this.
Yeah.
But that's something that like that level of patience of like having to in the moment figure out, okay, how am I going to build a lesson plan around the gummy bear song? Like, what are we going to do here? Is something that that type of almost like learning improv is something that
Mm.
I just found I'm good at, and it keeps things fun and interesting for me too. Like I like to be kept on my toes like that.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
I'm
mean,
torturing myself, but I love it.
yeah, make it easy for yourself. No,
Yeah.
I think it's such a skill. Like to it's good that they're bringing songs that they like, because you want to make sure that they're enjoying it. It's singing. You want to
Yes,
make sure that you're not turning
exactly.
someone away from singing your music. Obviously, like, it's a passion of yours, so you want to make sure that you're including like continuing that passion, making sure that they're still passionate about it. So yeah, Gummy song for the win.
Gummy song for the win is
So if we go back to your original music, so how does the process of writing a song for you start? How does it, do they all start the same? Are they a bit different? Let's talk about that.
Um, so for a long time it was all the same.
Mm.
Um, which is I'm a very lyrics driven person. I grew up writing poetry and I loved reading, and so
Mhm.
like there's something very literary about the way that my brain just kind of the lens that my brain has on the world in general. Um, but I always told myself like, oh, you can't be a musician because I don't play instruments particularly proficiently.
Mhm.
I play piano like well enough to teach and that's about it. And I certainly don't play well enough to play something and sing at the same time. Like that's just never been something that's never been my thing, you know?
Mhm.
And so for a long time I told myself like, no, 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 this is not for you. Don't even try. Like how silly, you know? But I was writing poetry all the time. And eventually I just realized, wait, poetry is or excuse me, music is literally just poetry set
Yeah.
to music. Like that's what that is. And so as soon as that kind of clicked for me, um, I almost always start with lyrics, or at least like I'll, come up with an idea, I'll write it down.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I have like a big chaotic doc of just like various lines that I've come up with or ideas that I've come up with over the years that I'll go into the doc and I'll be like, okay, wait, this thing that I came up with over here, that would thematically work for it. This would also thematically work for it. And I don't always end up using all of
Yeah.
that, but like I kind of pair it that way. Or sometimes it all comes out flowing out in like it's either like it takes me a week or more to write a song because I'm just carefully piecing it together bit by bit, or it's like it all comes flowing out at once in under an hour, and that there's no in between for me.
Yeah.
And that's like if I start from the lyrics point. Um, Now, what I found through releasing more music and especially working with more collaborators, like I have a brilliant collaborator who has a hand in almost everything I do, whose name is JP Warner. He also mixed the first couple sagas of Epic. He's just a mastermind, like an absolute savant. And so I started working with him, and every once in a while we'd come up with the kind of vibe of the song and the instrumental first, where I'd
Okay.
be like, I really want to write a song about this or something that fits in this hole in the album or whatever. And he'd be like, okay, cool, cool. So what if we build it out like this and add a little bit of, a little bit of bass here or whatever. And then I'm like, oh, well, now I have to work backwards. Like I'm not used to working that way. I have the song and I have to kind of match the lyrics
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
it. But it always at least starts with kind of an idea or a theme or like a feeling, I would say. And then more often than not with me, it then flows into lyrics, but every once in a while we work backwards as well, which I
Yeah.
have a harder time with, but I still really enjoy. It's been a great learning experience to kind of build it back that way.
Yeah, and it does seem backwards because you're so used to kind of doing it lyric first. I was always like writing lyrics and like pieces of napkins at restaurants or something, or like, before phones or like
Yep.
whatever. I was like writing everything. And I mean, I play piano with the band that I'm in.
Yeah.
And I play a little bit of guitar, but otherwise I work with a wonderful guitarist, Ian Idell, who I've got the album cover up there. Echo. Our debut
Yes!
album.
Stream Echo! Buy the vinyl. Even
Oh
better.
yeah,
Oh
buy
my God.
vinyl, stream it soon. But yeah, no. So I co-write with him because I too, I feel like I'm just not like limited, but I'm like I know what I want to do, but maybe I can't like get it out. So I think. I had that same thing. Like, I can't do this then. Like, surely, like, I'm just got. I like, there's a block. But it's nice to see someone who also thought the same thing and actually is like, no, stop. Let's push through those those barriers. I can do it. You can find there's so many wonderful people to work with. JP being one of them as well. Who's worked on a number of really great projects as well, like Stories from Styx as well. Like all these wonderful things, and people that can just kind of complete and understand what you're saying
Yes.
and
Well,
put it
because it's
into
all a
music.
conversation, right? Like
Hmm.
that's what storytelling is it started with literally drawing pictures on the walls of caves,
Yep.
and now we're here. And it's like it's so beautiful to me that we get to
Yeah.
engage not just with our, I mean, in your case, you were speaking about how like music connected you to your ancestry. I think that's
Yeah.
so beautiful. And like you're having a conversation with your ancestors through the music that you're making now.
Yeah.
And you and I are having a conversation right now. It's not musical in nature, but we could turn it into something musical eventually. You know, like it's
Exactly. Yeah.
all a conversation. And in my mind, anytime you collaborate with someone, you are just continuing that giant human storytelling conversation.
Yeah.
That is the coolest thing. And it's so much better to think of it that way and to frame
Mm.
it from that state of mind of like we're just continuing and we're adding to the conversation rather than like I am lacking in this area, so I
Yeah.
need to get someone to prop this up for me, you know,
Yeah.
which isn't what it is even anyway. It's literally like I have this idea, you like this idea. Let's come together and see how
Yeah.
our unique styles and our unique talents prop this idea up together. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's the building up, it's the kind of completing and both understanding what in like what journey you want to bring that song in, and then it becomes something wonderful that maybe you knew, obviously you knew that it wanted it to be, but you just needed someone else just to kind of like complete it and bring that journey on. And also, um like songs, sometimes we can be so, when writing it, we can be so trapped into making it sound like something that we've heard rather than like, focusing on where that story like, I want it to fit in this kind of criteria in this like on the charts or whatever, like this kind of bracket, but actually it should stem from something that means something to you, because then you're not going to kind of waver too far from it. You're going to stay true to what the meaning of the song is, and kind of, it's scary when collaborating with someone. I found it quite tricky at the beginning because I was kind of like opening my diary almost. It's like, here you go.
Yes.
Like, oh my gosh, this is a bit scary. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's good to, in that sense, to work with someone who, you know, you both have a lot of respect and trust for one another, that no idea is like a bad idea. It's just like, oh, I've got this too. Let's keep going and collaborating. So it's good that
Exactly.
you've got that person.
Oh yeah. Well, and you're so right. Like I remember when I first, because when I first started with JP, we had been, he went to Notre Dame with me, and it's funny because we both dropped the voice major at the same time at
Oh.
Notre Dame. We always kind of like bonded over that. But he was a year ahead of me, so we didn't cross paths very much
Hmm.
beyond that. And so we kind of lost touch for a while. And then when I was making kind of my transition to writing music and at least like wanting to give it a try, I was like, oh, I remember JP was this awesome producer, and he eventually then went into EDM and then branched out from there. Like he's had an incredible career already. And so I reached out to him and I was like, shrug, like would you be interested in just doing like kind of a discovery session with me? And he was like, yeah. And I remember in that first session, we didn't really branch into like lyrics or anything all that much. We were kind of just building sounds and exploring where my voice might fit, especially.
Yeah.
And then what actually like launched my songwriting career, like truly, was I had like this huge, scary medical scare that led to some pretty heavy feelings that I then turned into one song right away, and then it turned into a whole EP later on. And what was so funny about that was I went from like JP and I just kind of futzing around and making like cool beats and things like that in the studio and being like, all right, we'll come back around after you. I was on a theater contract at the time. So he's like, let's set another session after you get back from this in 5 months, and see where we left off, you know? And then while I was on that contract is when this medical scare happened and I started writing. And so then all of a sudden we went from like the most casual, chill, non scary relationship ever to I'm like, hi, here's the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Do you think we could turn this to music? And luckily he was like kind and game enough to
Yeah.
just take that in stride. But you're so right. Like it was so scary handing that over to some, especially
Yeah.
someone who I knew well, but not that well. And
Yeah. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
wanted me to perceive me like nicely. And what I
Yeah.
realized is like the more authentic you are, the more people are gonna like you anyway, just because,
Yeah.
or the people who don't like your authenticity are not people that you want in your life anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's so. I think that's such a strong statement you've just made there. Like we
Yeah.
care so much. Sometimes we can care so much about what other people think about us that we, you know, it takes away from who we truly are, and we kind of we can lose that, which is sad. Yeah, I mean, your moment of bravery and sharing that over with JP has 100% opened up more people to kind of feel connected to that story. So I think that's the great power of music, and what I love about it as well, that sometimes I could be writing lyrics that I'm like, oh gosh, is this a bit like too nail on the head? Like, what people going to know? But then people might just take that completely differently, but make it relate to them. And then they understand, they take it and they are moved by maybe in a different way to what it was intended to be. But then suddenly it just means something much bigger to them. And I think that's really powerful. So
absolutely. And for the people who that is their authentic experience, or like they've been through something similar, now they have something that they can turn to in those moments, which was the driver for me, is like, because originally I just wanted to write it and like create it and then have it for myself, and I didn't even know if I was going to put it out because it was such a scary notion. But the more people I spoke to as I kind of went on in my healing journey, the more I realized, like, so many people deal with these same issues and no one is talking about it. Like, and if I had music to turn to in those moments, it would have been so much easier, because I so often turn to music when I want to like feel less alone in my own existence. So yeah, I'm so with you. And then there have been people who like have never experienced any of those things exactly and still relate to the song in
but
other
still
ways.
feel something. And it's now, like you just said, like if there was a similar song for you when you were going through, then that's something that's your comfort blanket. That's something that's your safe space. And now you've created this wonderful safe space for people that are either going through something similar or not even similar, just something that's safe for them. And I think that's so powerful, just like that moment of bravery. And now it's just created this wonderful world for you. So that's just amazing in itself, I think, regardless of the song after, but like, I think that's just wonderful in itself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like the wall behind it.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. Like, it's so hard because you want to write songs that people like love and just like sing, but sometimes it's not about that. You just want to write something that, yes, it's for people, but it's like, it's just has to happen. You need to like get these words out. You need to just kind of say these things because it's something that you just need to get off your chest, or you feel like you just need to kind of almost okay, it's there in that song. I can not put a closure around it, but kind of put like if I listen to that song or sing, I'm going to know exactly what I was feeling, but also now I can be like, I am here. Yeah. Like that was then, and look at me now, kind of thing, right? And I think that's such a growth for you yourself as a songwriter, like writing the songs or just the listener. So music is just powerful.
Yes. Well, and I always tell people, like, since I started my songwriting journey, which like was relatively recently in the grand scheme of my life, like there are songs that I want to write. There are songs that are fun to write, and then there are songs that I have to write. And what's crazy is the songs that I have to write are usually not fun. Like they're not fun necessarily. They're, as you said, like they do create a sort of like exorcism that I think is necessary when you're in a healing journey, and you're an artist. But they're not necessarily, like sometimes I it's hard to listen to those songs back because like it does remind you exactly where you were in that moment. And especially if you have moved beyond that moment, especially because you were able to express yourself in that way. Like what a beautiful thing. But then sometimes listening back, it's like, ha ha ha. Yeah. And now a lot of people love this song and want to hear me perform it live. And it's really hard to perform live or whatever, and, but then like figuring out, okay, I've gotten the songs that I needed to write out of the way. Then it was like, oh, but there are songs now I want to write. Like I can't stop writing now that I've done it. And so and then even more, there are songs that are just fun to write and they don't mean anything. Like they're so silly and fun and like just.
But it doesn't need to always mean something. So it's just, I was just opened up my book and I started writing, and this was my free writing, and now we're here. This is the story that I'm in now. This is the world that I'm in now for this song. I cannot believe that this is the first episode out since my debut album Echo is out everywhere. That's right, you can now stream Echo everywhere. Please go and listen to it, add it to your daily playlists. Remember, if you want to support, you can head over to my Bandcamp page where you can buy a digital download or a vinyl record itself. So thank you so much to everyone who has listened, streamed, shared, added it to playlists. It honestly means the world. Right, back to you, Teagan. Did you always, I know you mentioned your lovers reversed, lovers.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember the first. What was the first? Upright. There you go. Did you always want them separate, or was it meant to be like a full EP, or were they always meant to be separate?
I did toss around the idea when we were first starting of like just releasing them as albums because I mean there's 6 songs each, so like
Yeah.
12 songs. That's it's a pretty nice short, sweet album. Get in, get out, love it. But there was something about the way that the journey just kind of like fleshed itself out, where especially because in tarot, upright and reversed have they're two sides of the same coin, in the
Yeah.
sense they cover a specific topic or a specific idea, and nothing is ever set in stone in either the upright or the reversed. And there was something really attractive to me about that idea, and especially in how we deal with certain themes in our lives, because like that's what tarot is all about, is it's looking at feelings and experiences that we have as human beings, but through the lens of this very archetypal practice, which where we're given an image and the image means something historically, and then how it applies to our lives totally varies. And so yeah, it was very much after a while it just kind of felt like the natural, because I would write songs that felt very distinctly reversed. That
Okay.
was
Yeah.
gritty, the hard, like whatever the opposite of when this thing goes well. And then I write songs and they would feel more like the upright, and that's when they do go well. Um, Plus, EPs I think are much quicker, easier list. I wanted to encourage people to listen to the songs in context and not just individually. And EPs are really, in my mind, a good way to do that because like they're shorter chunks, so you can do it on a run or you can do it on a drive or whatever, rather
Yeah.
than like, okay, I need to sit down and listen to the
Yeah.
album
Yeah. Yeah.
start to finish necessarily. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of thought that went into it, but it just kind of felt like the weirdly, I really liked the idea of like releasing 2 releases at once. And if you're feeling more angry one day, you can listen to Reversed. And if you're feeling nicer one day, then you can listen to Upright. But
No, I
yeah,
love
there's
that.
a lot of things that went into it.
Yeah, I mean, you've answered that really easily for me to understand because my sister's huge on tarot card reading. She's always like, "Can I do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, all right, let's go." Like, and I'm like, and I love it. No, I mean, I think they're really cool, but I feel
Yes.
like I don't necessarily know that much on it, and I think you've just
Yeah.
clearly there said upright and reverse. That makes so much sense. So I completely
Yeah.
understand it now, and
And
it's the
that's the thing
different.
about, yeah, that's the thing about tarot is like I always tell people it's like at minimum, if you don't believe in any of the spiritual stuff, which is totally fine, it's an ink blot test. Like it's literally psychologically you're given an image and your brain is going to feel a certain way about the
Yeah.
image, and what your brain feels about that image is probably going to tell you about like what you're wondering about or the questions, like
Yeah.
the secret answers to the question you have. I think it pulls things out of the subconscious and our own
Mm.
awareness of ourselves in a really cool way. And if you do believe in the spiritual stuff, oh honey, like it's great. We love tarot. So either
We
way.
welcome you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, my sister, she's always wanting to yeah, do you give me like a tarot card reading or something? Like she's always wanted me to be involved. I'm like, all right, fine. Give me
My
what's the question
way.
today? And I'm like, okay, fine, let's think of one.
Yeah, I
Um,
love it.
oh, fun. Well, yeah, amazing. Did you so you started writing fairly recently. Do you remember the first song that you kind of wrote, like in terms of like in your songwriting full journey? Maybe you didn't release it, but like, do you remember like an early song that you wrote?
Oh gosh, well, because I would like before I ever set out and was like, I'm gonna be a songwriter, I would rewrite people's songs like to fit more closely to my
Yeah.
experience, or I would put something together like there I would occasionally when I was a teenager sit down at the piano and just like play little progressions and little things like that, and then write lyrics over top of that. I have a really embarrassing silly song that I wrote when I was like, hold on, let me get rid of it so that what's going off right now. I had a really embarrassing little song that I wrote where basically like I compared the feeling of feeling spineless, or oh my gosh, do I have it in multiple tabs? I'm so sorry. Give me one second.
You're good, you're good.
Where is that coming from?
Do you have you watched Black Mirror? Or do
Yes,
you know those? It looked like I don't know if you've seen the newest season.
I know. I fear I fear for it. I have to watch it all the way through. So
Oh, okay, okay. Maybe when you get to that episode, I think you might know.
oh my gosh, the horror movie of that. I am in fact a multiple tabs girly, and then when I say multiple tabs, I mean like I think I have 68 up now, which is not good, but we get Discord gets lost and all that.
Yeah.
Um, so I wrote a song when I was like I think 14 about I basically told the story of this like little mollusk, and it was literally called Mollusk, I think. And it was meant to reflect like when I'm feeling like I'm being taken advantage of, or like when I'm being treated like I'm spineless or whatever.
Oh.
And it was the story of how like the mollusk lost its spine. It was like a folktale type thing, but it was so like looking back on it, I'm like, oh my God, that's so cringy. And like you were so dramatic, girly, and you were feeling so many things about so many people and situations that don't matter at all in your adult life. Like
Yeah.
you. So I but I look back fondly on that and I'm like, you know what? Like I can put that out someday. I could like touch that up and then put it out at some point.
Oh
And
my
will I
gosh.
die of embarrassment? Probably, but like uh
Everyone look out for Mollusk the song
Wallace
2025.
Wallace single.
It's coming out.
Crazy.
Um,
Yeah, but then on my like when I decided to be a songwriter, it was because I wrote Mother One, and that like what I did is I sat down the minute I came home from that appointment, and I wrote 5 pages of just like what I was feeling, what I was fearing, um, the what ifs that were just bouncing around in my head that I didn't know what else to do with, and
mm,
that 5 pages turned into that. I mean, pretty like uncut. Like I moved some
yeah,
things
yeah,
that, but I didn't really like make any cuts to that, which is why it's
yeah.
the longest song ever. But yeah, so like that was like where that began, and then once I found such joy and such healing through like because really what it was is my songwriting process for that EP became my healing journey as well, and so you
Yeah.
can kind of track that in real time as you're listening through to the album. Um, but once I did that, it was like the floodgates had opened, and then I was just like, oh, I can make a song out of anything. Like this
I
is
know,
great.
yeah. I'm gonna write about this orange.
Except, no, genuinely, I will sometimes sit down and be like, oh, wait, how can I once was literally chopping vegetables, and then the fact I'm chopping vegetables became a lyric in a song. And so,
There you
like,
go.
it's just to show
Yeah.
that.
You never know where it's gonna, and, sometimes we could be so stuck on like, I need to find something so clever to write. And it's like, no, it's right there in front of you. It just needs to be really
Yes.
simple. It just needs to be something. And I think free writing, I need to get, I like free writing. And when I'm on a roll, I really like it because it's nice to look back at and then you can pick things up that literally came from you. Like, rather than like thinking of something that needs to fit, you can just look back at some free writing and be like, cool, that's what I'm popping in here because this has got everything in it that I need for this specific song or something. It's so good. It's challenging though to like let your mind kind of empty almost to just see what wants to come out.
Yeah. Well, I just got to a point where I was like, I mean, to what we were talking about before, I think as performers, we're taught that there's a right answer. And
Oh
if we
yeah,
just keep working hard and get the right audition or whatever, then like, oh my gosh, we'll get it right.
yeah,
There's no such thing as right. It's art. It's literally your interpretation. Some people are going to be jerks about it and not like, they're going to say it's wrong or whatever. But like, what's so liberating about songwriting, especially, is like, you're the only one who decides what is right and what is wrong. And so, like,
exactly.
yeah, who cares? It doesn't
Yeah,
matter how it sounds or whether it's the most clever thing in the world or whatever. If it feels right for that feeling in that moment, then that means it is right. And so the minute
exactly.
I got over my own kind of performer brain of like, what if they don't think it's good? I'm like, then you still put out a song that you think
Yeah,
is great.
yeah,
Wow, what an accomplishment. Most people can't say they did that. How exciting. And so it
yeah,
was a lot of like unlearning things I'd learned in like theater school and stuff like that in
yeah.
terms of when I started putting stuff out. But it's really liberating. It's really
Mm,
fun to just kind of get,
yeah,
like you said, empty your mind, like get over yourself a little bit. Like
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
don't take yourself so seriously. And there's a lot of serious things that we deal with, but when you deal with them in a less like at least self-serious
Mm.
manner, usually life gets a lot more fun and a lot more interesting and enjoyable. And
Yeah. And a lot more open to just like seeing where this is gonna go, just flowing with the waves. I think like I the performing mind, like I'm such a huge perfectionist, and I
Yep.
felt like that was always like a pressure that I put onto myself. So even like something like free writing, you don't even need to add it to a song. It's just for you. But
Yeah.
I felt so much like, oh my God, this is not good. And I'm like, why is it not good? Like I'm literally just writing something that's coming from my brain. So yeah, I think you said some wonderful things there that is just like once you kind of okay, not everyone, not everyone's going to like it, and that's fine. That's not for you then. Those people
Oh,
aren't for you. They're not supposed to listen to your music. They can listen to something else. But the
yeah.
people, like, if you're writing it and it makes sense for you and you enjoy it, then the people that are gonna, will enjoy it too. Will enjoy it. Like, they'll be there on your side because they enjoy it because you're being authentically yourself. And I think that's more important than kind of fitting into a gap just to try and write and put the pressure on, like, do things right.
Absolutely. No, and I feel like you've said something so important there, which is that like authenticity is what attracts people.
Mm,
It's not that there isn't a right answer that's going to get you super rich or super famous or whatever. It is literally like if people feel that they've seen a piece of you, like
mm,
that's what audiences can sniff out. They can sniff out inauthenticity in about a heartbeat.
yeah.
And we all feel it, right? Like we can tell when someone is living authentically themselves versus like when someone's not. There's just something that doesn't quite resonate or doesn't quite
Yeah.
sit. And a lot of times it creates like a sadness response. Like you're just like, oh my gosh, like I hope that they figured it out or I hope they're doing okay, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but what I've learned is like the more authentically you and the more authentic of version of your voice you get to show, especially in music, because that's like a rather safe means with which to
Yeah.
do that. The more people will gravitate towards that. And you're right, like it'll be the right people because like a lot of times if someone is mad about the fact that someone is living authentically, it is usually because they've got something going on that they need to sort
Exactly. Yeah.
of. That's on them to
It
figure out.
speaks more about them than it does like, it shouldn't it's hard to like hear it or see it if something, if you do hear some negativity,
Yeah.
but like at the same time it's more on that person rather than like, just keep doing yeah. If you're someone who's writing music, just keep going. Basically, just keep exploring and writing music. You never know where it's going to go, and that's the exciting thing. You never know what what you're going to write next, what's going to come
Oh
up
yeah, no.
next.
Half the songs that I've put out, I'm like looking back now.
Where did this come
God,
from?
wait. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I must ask, so are you a notes app person? Do you like to write in a journal? Do you like to like how do you like write out your music and keep track of your ideas? And do like where do you do your free writing? I think that's
Yeah.
so awesome.
I used to, so I'm more of a notebook person. I like the pen and
Yeah.
paper and morning. That would be like a free writing. But obviously,
Yeah.
I used to bring like a smaller notebook with me in my bag or, if I'm going out. But then sometimes you forget. So then my phone was obviously always there. So that's nice. Like,
Yeah. Mhm.
notepad. Voice memos are crazy. They don't make any sense at the moment. They're just like, boop, 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 boop. I'm just like, like singing something in there. Then I'll come back to it. And I'm like, sure. I don't know what I was talking about
Like you
then.
can hear your dog's collar jingling in the background.
Exactly, yeah, the birds
Outside
tweeting
near me
around.
to be loud for the neighbors or whatever. No, literally voice memos. And I always get into trouble. I don't label them.
Oh
Like
no, I'm so bad. And then I'm like, what is this address? I'm like, what?
I don't
This
remember what
isn't mine. Yeah, like so yeah, voice memos and notebook would probably I feel like I was a lyric person at first where I always write things down, whereas I've tried to test myself with doing things differently. Sometimes it's just like a title idea and I'll be working like through a chord progression with Ian or something, and it'll start from there and it'll start from the chorus and work out. But I am a lyric person as well. Like I like to like really focus on making sure that it makes sense with me and not
yeah.
just like, like just making sure that everything follows the story as I want it to unfold. Like, like and make sure that's where I like to put my focus on, I think. So that's why I like notebooks as well because then I can scribble, the amount of
Yes.
scribbles I have as well.
Yep.
Whereas obviously
It's so good. Just
because then
out.
sometimes I scribble, but sometimes that scribble might come back. Like, on the phone, if you just delete it, then it's gone. Whereas on your notebook, it could still potentially come back if actually that idea was good and I'm
The
going to bring
light.
it
You
back.
can see what was behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Well, before we go, because we have been talking for about an hour already, which is lovely. Time flies by when we're nerding out about music.
I was gonna say.
No, I wanted to quickly talk about obviously Epic and Stories from Styx
Yeah.
and your voice recording kind of. So, had you done voice recording before going to Epic or?
I had done it here and there. It was like, because there were very limited opportunity. There wasn't like kind of a music recording
Oh, right,
anything
yeah, yeah.
at Notre Dame, especially. And so, like, I remember there was one song that I recorded actually with Jay that Jay wrote for the development office at Notre Dame, and like that was like a professional studio time thing. And then there had been other times where I'd been in a studio for one reason or another, but like in terms of I consider like Epic the beginning of my voice acting career.
Okay.
Like that was like the first time I had ever done anything like that. I never
Mm.
really thought about the artistry behind it before that point. I watched like Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of my favorite shows of all time. I never sat and thought about the voice actors or like what their paths
Yeah.
must have been like or how I could get there or whatever, until I started work on Epic. And what's so crazy about Epic, just as like a journey, is it literally started as an idea that Jay had while we were still at Notre Dame together. And he was like, so I'd love to do some demos if you want to like pop down and do the female identifying voices. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Like it was just like
Yeah,
a
let's go.
fun
Yeah.
thing to do and passion project for a really long time. And then the pandemic hit and he started posting it on TikTok. And then all of a sudden it was this giant like it was
Mm.
this huge thing. And like it was so surreal, especially because like it affects me, and this is still kind of the case to this day. I get recognized a little bit more often nowadays, but like it only ever affected me on my phone for the longest time. So I would log onto my phone and be like, ooh, like, thank you so much for supporting Epic type of thing. And then I'd walk into audition and they would be like, okay, crawl around on your hands and knees. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Back to
Awesome,
this.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And so it was kind of like a weird Hannah Montana dual
Yeah.
world for a minute there. But I mean, it's introduced me to some of my favorite people in the
Mm.
world, and it has the recording process has been so crazy because like
Mm.
we a lot of times it was remote recording at the very,
Okay.
very beginning. So Jay would call me while I was at my nanny job and be like, I need a demo by the end of today. I'm like, I have a 1.5-year-old in my arms right now. What do you want from me? Um, and then he would, like, so, and then he would put those out and we would do cute little videos and things like that on TikTok in the very early days, which was a lot of fun. But then all of a sudden, like the next time we did it professionally was in a fancy studio in Mexico where they recorded Encanto. And so the jump from like this to this was surreal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so then we recorded in Mexico. That was a really cool experience. I loved the team down there. We had a really good time. Then for the second saga, I was still on contract in Kansas when we recorded it. So then I had to literally like they flew out to a random studio in the middle of Kansas City. We recorded there. And then the rest of it was recorded in Jay's home studio. And so then he would fly us out and we would do, sessions with him there. So it was like literally all over the map, literally all over the place. I had pretty much about every single recording booth experience you could possibly have through that project. So then by the time I got to Stories from Styx and it was like, we're going to do all of your stuff in one studio over the course of maybe 2 days. I was like, awesome. Let's
Fab.
bring it on. Not that it wasn't awesome to like have all those experiences and to watch the project of Epic
Yeah.
grow so much as I kind of moved through that space, but it was definitely like, oh, I'm prepared for anything on the recording front. I've been through like pew 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 pew.
Yeah. You went from like not knowing, like not having experienced that to just like experiencing all types of booths and studios and stuff. So like it must be nice to just kind of, okay, cool, we're just in this one.
And
Just in the
it's
one for this.
JP's, and so like I'm very familiar with that studio. I love that studio. Like I have
Yeah.
this set of headphones that I always wear. That you know what I mean? Like it wasn't
It
like
was home. Yeah.
adjust every single time I got to a location.
Yeah.
Every studio is a little bit different in the way that they run things, and so
Yeah.
it was as much. it was such a great baptism by fire in terms of going from just recording things on my own in my lonesome bedroom to like all working in these awesome, great
Yeah.
studios with incredible teams, by the way. Like the teams that worked at these studios were absolutely incredible. And I learned a lot from them, but it was a lot of like I have to learn very quickly over the course of a couple years. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Learn
but
on
I'm
the
really
spot,
glad I did.
especially. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fab. And obviously as it grew, how has that affected, like what has the effect been on you? Like you just said, actually, like, your phone was blowing up and then kind of in person maybe you were being noticed, but like what was that like, kind of seeing it build, seeing Epic grow, and then
Oh,
obviously the reaction and analysis.
yes. I mean, it's been the roller coaster of a lifetime, like in the best possible way, in that like I knew it was something special from the first moment Jay was showing me like what he was coming up with. I was like, this is real. I mean, he's always been a next level talent. He just sees the
Yeah.
world in a different way and like is so naturally musical, like to the point where it's almost infuriating sometimes. Like he played Jesus in a production of Jesus Christ Superstar that we were in together that has now like leaked all over the internet. Um, and he just did Gethsemane. Like he didn't really have like a warm-up routine or anything. Like he's just kind of this crazy super tenor voice, like where you're like,
Yeah.
I what? So he's always been just this unbelievable talent. And I knew that it was something special at the beginning, but especially like I come from a partially like a theater producer background, and so like I was looking at like, oh, like getting something of this scale staged might be really hard. I was like, where, like I had that kind of
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
worry for him and where it would go. And so to see it have grown into not just such a incredible success, but into such a beautiful community, like so many cool, wonderful, generous, lovely people
Yeah.
love and gravitate towards this story. And it's because, I mean, in my mind, it's because like we all love Greek mythology because it reflects our feelings and it reflects our experiences in a way
Yeah.
that feels fantastical and feels mythological and fun and ancient, And so like Greek mythology attracts a lot of good people. His great music attracts a lot of really great people. And so the main thing that has been so special for me is like both in getting to know the cast, who are some of my favorite people of all time. Luke Holt just stayed with me last week while he was in town doing a project of his, and like we just were like kids, like up until 3 in the morning, giggling, like trying not to wake my roommate up, type of thing. Like we were just like gossiping and having a great time and watching cool anime and different things. Like it's introduced me to some of my favorite people on
Yeah.
that level, but then also just like it's one of the greatest communities I've ever been part of in terms of just the generosity and the level of support and
Mm.
passion. Most importantly, like this is such an incredibly passionate group of people.
Yeah.
And I love surrounding myself with very passionate groups of people. So,
It keeps you motivated and keeps you like,
yes.
excited by things. And I think, it's nice hearing you say that, because as someone on like who from last year has been following Epic and
Yeah.
like kind of experiencing and immersing myself with it, it's nice to hear that it is such a lovely supportive group, because I feel like we get that, and I think like everyone that I've spoken to feels that as well. So it's nice to hear that, it's you're being authentically yourself. It's kind of going back to that thing, right? You'll show, even though you're characters in the in the Greek mythology, it's you are still, everyone still sees you and like connects with
Yeah.
you and Jay and everyone. So it's just really nice that that is, that you have said
For
as
real.
well, that it's
Yeah.
really such a supportive group, because it just means it's just nice to, yeah, to hear that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and that's what like it's a little crazy because as someone who's been in the theater industry for a long
It's
time,
rare
there's
to get
always one,
everyone.
right?
Yeah,
Like there's always
yeah.
one in the cast that like at least someone doesn't gel with. Like this cast is nuts. Like
Yeah,
it's such a great group of people.
it's great.
Um, yeah, so we got really lucky. I mean, we like all hold to like we Stephen Dookie got married last year, and a lot of us went to his wedding.
Oh
And
wow.
like because also that was a lot of like our first time all being in one room together. Like it's the first time I met Talia in person, for
Yeah, yeah,
example.
yeah.
Um, and like instant gel and instant like because we were also like some of the only non-family members there, and so we were,
Yeah, well,
this is crazy. Like we're here, we're doing this. Um, But yeah, like the fact
Oh.
that it's not only people that I love working with and that I work well with, but that it's a group of people that are just so genuinely kind and generous and warm.
Mm.
People I like hanging out with. Like
Yeah.
that's a dream.
That's
That's
the dream. It's so important. And you've made lifelong friends now. That's just incredible.
yes.
Like that's so important. You've liked everyone that you've worked with. And yeah, that you've just meeting some of the people as well because you've worked so separately almost, right?
I
In
just
like
met
different songs.
Nico for the first time the other day when he was in Chicago. Like
That's
we,
crazy.
we literally our voices are entwined
It's a,
on that
yeah.
album. And I had never met the boy. And so
Yeah.
it's lovely. I was so glad to finally meet him, but I was like, this is weird, right? Like we
We should
literally
have already.
I know you, but I don't like
Well, it's kind of like it's good that then we've had this chat because it's shortened the gap because we had our voices intertwined and
I know,
now
I was gonna
here we are.
say, you're literally my
Here we are.
mom. I was like, the minute I messaged you and I was like, oh my God, hey mom. I was like, I don't know this woman. Like, I should
Yeah,
probably
I
like,
know.
chill.
Yeah, we should probably chill. I don't actually know. No, I was like, oh
Yeah,
wait, no, I've worked with Teagan now. I probably should say hi,
yeah,
like
I thought the
rather than
same
just
thing.
like your comments and like sorry, like your posts or anything. I was like, I probably should send him a message.
I was like, oh my God, hey, I already love you, but I should probably like talk to you before I
Yeah,
decide I'm in love with you. You know what I
like
mean? Like,
I love your voice, but I'm just gonna say it again.
yeah, exactly.
Oh. Did you feel like so from Athena to Persephone, what was something that you wanted to do differently to showcase them? You did such a wonderful job of explaining the high belts screams and like in on I saw the video on TikTok I'm referring to that long
Yeah.
video. It was such a great because I was like, yes, thank you. Say it to the people at the back. Come on. Just talking about like, vocal health as well in there and how we're not damaging our voice, we're not reaching up with the thick folds. But in terms of characterization between Athena and Persephone, what did you want to actively do to bring the differences?
Yeah. Oh my God, that's a great question. Well, so Jay had a very specific idea of what he wanted Athena to sound like from the beginning. Like,
Mm,
and a lot of it was built around knowing that I was going to be voicing that character. Because, like, from day one, he's like, I really want you to voice a goddess. I'm not sure which one I'm going to work with yet, but I want you to voice a
yeah.
goddess. And so I was like, okay, okay. Like, wow. Um, but he really liked the richness of my tone, and especially like he liked kind of seeing how much he could push the bounds of that in terms of like what he was writing for me to tackle and to try. And so what was interesting is like I gained a lot of experience very quickly in kind of shifting that tone in like to characterize in different ways because I was mostly doing Athena, but then he was like, can you do Circe? Can you try Scylla? Can you
Okay, yeah.
this random demo of Calypso just so I have something to turn in with the female voice attached to it? And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I would have to, I didn't realize how comfortably my voice sat in kind of the Athena
Mm,
intonation and how well he had written for my voice in those moments until I started kind of shifting into the other characters for the early demos. And so then that was very helpful when I was moving on to Persephone because I
yeah.
was like, okay, I still want it to sound like me.
Yeah, yeah.
How do I make it sound like me that's not Athena? And luckily, I mean, Casper gave me a lot of freedom in terms of kind of creating the voice for that character. I don't know if you had the same experience, but he was just kind of like, I hired you because I trust you. So do whatever you want, which was great. Like that's very, very liberating to have as an artist. And so how I thought of it is I was like, Persephone is a very layered character. She is both the goddess, like the queen of the underworld, and she's the goddess of spring, right? So there's
Mm,
like a lot of layers to her already, and who she is as a deity. So I was like, how do we? I think the darkness, the queen of the underworld thing comes already in the richness of my tone. Like we
yeah.
have that
Yeah, yeah,
already.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so how do we bring in more light? And that's by, lifting things up and sitting a little bit like a little bit higher. You've got a little bit
Yeah.
more smile in your voice, perhaps. That's like instead of "Oh, King of Night," it's "Oh, King of Night." Like you just kind of bring everything
Yeah.
up a little bit and place it a little bit differently. And so it was still very rooted in my natural voice, but then I basically just I said like I opened the window and let the sunlight in. Um, and yeah, and I think that the other difference is like I view Persephone as someone who's kind of like flowing in the wind all the time. She
Mm,
loves being outside. She loves being amongst the flowers. She's very flowy. So her diction isn't going to be as exact as someone like Athena. You are
that
reckless
authority. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
oppressed. You know, like she is very cut and clean, and
Mm,
she uses really, really sharp diction, even when she is having fun. Whereas like Persephone is allowed to kind of live in a freer place. So there's like a bunch of different factors that I
yeah,
think go into how to build a character through the way that you're singing and the way that you're vocalizing. And those were kind of my main ones for shifting.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't want to add a character voice to her because I didn't think that that would be authentically me. And also, I think that this is a character that often gets infantilized in the way
Mm,
that and she was young when in the original myth she is listed as being very young. So that's not, I'm not
yeah,
saying
yeah.
that she wasn't, but she also is in this version of the story, she's empowered. Like she makes a choice for herself. Is it a choice she might regret in 3 years? Who knows? Like, yeah, probably. But she did make a choice for herself in that moment. And so I
Well,
wanted to find a way to like, yeah, and you're like, hold on.
I was gonna say, I was like, as your mother, I agree.
Yeah, you're like, you will regret it. But mom, you have to let me make my own choices.
No, no, no.
Um,
Come back.
you're like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about.
No, 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 no. I think that's so because you don't want it to be different from you, right? It's your voice.
Yeah,
You don't. It's not like a character. Like if you had to like, I don't know, go right into the stereotypes of like a wit, you know, like go into really like those kind of stereotype characters where you do have to manipulate the voice and like change. You know, you still want it to sound like yourself, but I think making those changes, like you said, the diction, creating a little bit of a brighter kind of quality. I think that's so smart, and you did it really, really well. Like it's just nice that that's what you actively chose to do to bring that forward. I was so adamant into like not holding on, and Casper was like, no, I think you shouldn't. I was like, Casper, no. I don't want to. I think some of these words need to be like stopped, because like
yeah,
you hold on to like you said, you're very floaty, and I wanted it to be really different too, because especially both of those, if we look at both of the kind of material that we had, the range that we had like was quite, I mean, you had like a lovely low part as well. In was it in My Persephone or something?
I think
But you know, you showcased your beautiful high range, and obviously I got very angry. But I wanted to make sure that there was differences, right? Like, and make sure that there was that kind of like, yeah, just a bit more of a abrupt, like it made you feel uncomfortable, and then you're
yeah.
suddenly like, ugh, why are we now suddenly? We've just heard this beautiful love song, and now we're like, oh my god! And I think Casper did so well with like placing that song straight after. I don't know, there was
Yes.
something so jarring about it. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my
Well,
god.
it reminds us that there are so many different ways to view the story, and that's the point of mythology. Like,
That is
it's
the
to
point.
help us understand every facet of ourselves, not
Yeah,
for us to decide that one facet is correct and to go with that forever. Because, like,
yeah,
what is correct to someone might be completely, I mean, in what is correct to Persephone might be completely wrong and incorrect to Demeter. And that is
exactly, yeah,
part of the point. It's meant
yep,
to like reflect the whole of human expression rather than like just a small chunk that is, again, going back to like right or wrong. There's no right or wrong in
there's no
terms,
right or wrong.
and especially in Greek mythology, there's a lot of wrong that happens in Greek mythology that we look
Yep,
back on now and we're like, but contextually at the time, it was
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
just part of their culture. And is it wrong maybe now looking back? Sure, but like it wasn't back then. And
yeah,
should be able to acknowledge both of those things without either of them being demonized, I think.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah,
But we should also be able to view them from a modern lens of like a mother who sees that her underage daughter was being taken advantage of by
yep,
someone that she already has seen make a lot of mistakes or whatever that is. Like
exactly, yeah,
that's a beautiful lens to look at it from as well, and a valid one that should be explored and should be talked about. And so like
yeah,
I also love the placement of those two songs, and like I love also, oh my god, I'm just gonna nerd out for a second, like the fact that he let you simmer for so long in that song, and the way that
mm,
you built it too, because you're not someone who like right off the bat was like, you know how to build a song. And like I knew that from when I heard your demo of Crossroads, first of all, which guys, that exists. I still listen to it frequently. It is my I can't even express how majestic it is. It is so beautiful and mind-blowing. Um, but yeah, so drop that, Casper, if you're watching this. But also like just hearing the way that you built that song and how the music supported you and your ability to do that was a masterclass for me to listen to, just because like you let it simmer for so long. Like you gave her that feminine rage of like, I have to keep a lid on it for as long as possible, but the minute that lid flies off, oh
Here we
my
go.
God, run for the hills. You know what I mean? And so like I it brought my Persephone ends in this very quiet, chill place. And then Demeter starts in a very quiet place as well, but it's not chill.
Yeah,
It's
there's
she
something bubbling.
exactly. And I just thought
Oh.
you did that masterfully.
Well, thank you very much. That's very
Oh,
kind. Yeah, I loved working on Crossroads as well. And then hearing, the final version with your voice, I was like, yes. It's just it needs that power. Like it just needs that kind of freedom as well. You've got such a free ease to your voice up there. And I think going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of this chat, cross training with the the classical opera, just stretching those vocal folds up there has allowed you now to apply, the right amount of resistance tension, good tension
yeah.
up in those high belts that's needed, because then we can play around with different things like correct growls and like distortion and stuff that we can have a lot of fun with, which you do so well as well. So I think it's so lovely seeing something, because I was obviously at the beginning of the Stories from Styx journey, like just kind of doing the demo, just kind of seeing how it
Yeah.
progressed. So it was nice to kind of see piece by piece, picking like where this is going to go, and then finally hearing the final product, and it's just incredible. So
Yes.
you
I can.
too, you as well. I mean, stunning voice range, vocal qualities. But but
You
but
you
yeah,
were the bridge. I was just the carbon copy, mama.
no. But no, it's nice that how you see your voice, and as that instrument, and like what are you going to do to change it for what characters you're going to play, and like how you do treat it, you know well, but also like as a professional, just knowing what to do for what role. And I think that's really important, that's something that you're actively thinking about, and I love that.
Yeah,
um but
it's fun.
yeah. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed this chat with you.
Likewise.
I love nerding out about music and voice and vocals and all things like that, so I knew I was with the right person here.
Oh yeah, I was as in the minute you started talking about vocal folds, I'm like, oh, we're gonna be not just like friends, but like we're gonna be besties. This is gonna be
We're gonna
great.
be two vocal folds together.
Exactly. Oh my God. That really, really hard sound. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I
Oh,
likewise, I have enjoyed, I genuinely like, I've been looking forward to this since you reached out. I know that
yay.
this is the first of many, I hope.
Yes. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Mind chats, but who knows? Maybe we'll collaborate on something else moving forward. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining. And yeah, I look forward to all your future projects, more original songs, more collaborations, more of your voice out in the world. I look forward to it.
About to go literally put Echo on in my car and stream that. So
Yay!
yeah, everyone else follow suit, please, because it's a life-changing album and I
Oh,
love it
thank
so
you.
much. And I love you so dearly, and I am so grateful that you had me on today. So thank you for that.
Yay! Oh, thank you so much. I'll see you soon. Bye. I really, really enjoyed that chat with Teagan. Cannot wait to see what new music she brings out, and just can't wait to listen to it and dance along to it. I really enjoyed jumping into the world of people who write their own music, so it was really exciting to hear Teagan's thought process and journey of her own writing. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Elephant Talk. If you're watching here on YouTube or here on Spotify, because that's where here is for you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, the bell button, and thumbs up button, or the follow button if you're over on Spotify, so that you never miss an episode of Elephant Talk. I'll see you very soon. Bye.